Welcome to another Telltale Books magazine review. Um, haven't been doing so well on getting through the magazines as I had hoped. Life throws things at you and you got to try and deal with it. But I did get through all of the stories published by Reactor in February, including that last story that they threw in at the very last minute in January. So I didn't get that one into my January review. Now, in case you're not familiar with it, Reactor is an online website magazine. Used to be called Tor.com. It is owned and run by Tor Books. And it's edited by a variety of people who are prominent editors in the field. Um, and some of them are also prominent authors in the science fiction fantasy field. So there are people who really know what's current in all the genres. Reactor publishes works from horror, science fiction, fantasy, and they even have some that really just kind of qualify as more as surrealism than any of the traditional genres. So they don't limit themselves. They simply always look for good writing. And they have gotten some really excellent writing. Some of their stories have won awards. A lot of their stories have been at least finalists for Hugo's and Nebulas. And there are some of their stories that I have um, put into our top tales list as top tales because I felt they were extremely good stories. And because of the variety of authors, the variety of genres, the variety of writing, you get a variety of styles. And so for any one person going into Reactor, um, you're probably not going to love everything. You you pretty much can be certain that you're going to find good stories that they'll at least be enjoyable, they'll at least be worth your time. I don't think you're going to find anything in there that you downright hate, although it's possible. I mean, they won't be bad stories, but they just won't click with you, and you're going to feel very dissatisfied. And that's the chance you take with any kind of magazine, anthology. Anytime you're bringing together a variety like that, um, you really don't know how it's going to click with the audience. And that's the hell that the editors have to live in, trying to make good choices, trying to make choices that their audience is going to like. There's no way that they can always win. They're going to lose some of the time. But they always have to do their best and try to win every time. So sometimes you're going to be reading, so Reactor's website, then you're going to go into it, and sometimes whatever they've published this week is just going to be okay. It's not going to really click with you. Other times you're going to read what they've published this week and you're going to go, wow, that was amazing. And that same thing holds true for all magazines, that sometimes you're going to have an issue where there's just nothing in it that really floats your boat. Other times you're going to have an entire issue where everything in it is just incredible. It's a little bit of a crapshoot, but most of the time it's worth it. Most of the time you get at least one story that you really like. The February offerings for Reactor were all very good stories, very well written. They were all by authors that I've never heard of before. That's always bigger gamble when it's an author that isn't really well known, that you've never read anything by them. You don't know if you're going to like what they write. But sometimes you take that gamble and you find your new favorite author. Other times you take that gamble and it's just, eh. I feel the stories, the four stories I'm dealing with here, three that were published in February and one on January 31st, um, they were well written, but um, just didn't light my fire, so to say. They didn't come across, they didn't really excite me. They didn't really inspire me. They didn't really blow my mind. They were just okay. They were just good stories. But at least they all were good stories. I can recommend all of them. I just can't say that they're all great. I can't call any of these top tales. So to go through them one at a time, on January 31st, they published a story by an author named Jordan Corella. The story is called Evan, A Remainder. And Evan is a woman, and she breaks up with her boyfriend and starts coughing up bones. And the bones eventually go together to make a whole human skeleton, which then becomes animated. Very surreal story, more of a fantasy, more of a surreal fantasy. Um, I like surrealism. I like the surrealistic idea here. The story itself just didn't do it for me. It just didn't excite me. So then on February 7th, they published Instar by Karen Hewler. In this story, a woman and a man out in the woods both claim a young girl as their daughter. They both look at this young girl and they see their daughter, but they're not married. They're two separate people. They can't have the same, they don't have the same daughter. What's going on? And what's what's revealed in the story keeps changing like an hallucination, like a dream that is constantly morphing and going in a different direction. Neat story, kind of creepy, but a little too obscured. I guess I wanted to know more about what's going on and just never got it. On February 21st, they published 9 Billion Turing Tests by Chris Wilrick. And this is a little bit of a future story. It's science fiction dealing with AI. And what's happening in this is that there are real people, and the main character is a real person, but everyone he meets is an AI replica or stand-in for real people. So he goes out for a walk and he never once meets another real person. Everybody he meets is AIs. Even good friends are not really his good friends. They're AI, um, like avatars for their friends. So they're actually not talking to their friend. Even though the AI responds exactly like their friend isn't there. This one I liked a little better. It's kind of a cool idea. It's a very character focused story. And just the idea carried it a lot better than the other stories I've talked about so far. On February 28th, they published a story titled You Don't Belong Where You Don't Belong, written by Kemi Ashingiwa. I hope I'm not murdering that name. I'm doing my best. And in this one, this is another science fiction story. And here you have a being on a distant planet that wants to get revenge on another being from off-world. This story, I felt I was just missing too much. I wasn't understanding enough of what was going on. I needed more detail, and that might be a personal issue, that I just need more detail to understand what's going on and didn't get it here. Or maybe I'm right. Maybe the author should have offered us a little more explanation as to what's going on. That's kind of my feeling about it. It feels like a chapter that's been taken out of a much larger book. Like, a third of the way through the book, there's a chapter in the book, and the author took this chapter out and sent it into Reactor. And that's what I mean. It feels like there's things in front of the story and things behind the story that we need to know in order to get what's going on here. But the writing was good of what we have. I just wanted more. So I couldn't really appreciate that one too well. And that's all that they published for Reactor for February of 2024. And so far in March, we do have 2 stories from them. I'm going to wait till the end of March to have read them all and report on them all. And so I'll see you back for Reactor in March. I still kind of hope to get in one of the other magazines. The March, April magazines of Analog and Asimov's are both in my hands. I would like to cover one of those before the end of April, one or both of those before the end of April. But I do have a lot of reading to do at this time in Naked Lunch, so that Emily and I can shoot a video on that. And the other major change you're going to see starting this week is you're going to see a lot more of Emily coming back into the videos, I think. I really like having her in these videos. We get into some much more interesting discussions than I ever get into when I'm on my own. So I hope you'll come back and join us for all the videos we do. Join me for the magazines. Like I say, I really hope to do either Asimov's or Analog soon. And otherwise, like us, subscribe to us, keep coming back for all the things we do. We got some really good content coming up. And hope to see you then.